This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
Hey everybody, this is Freddie Cohen of ESPN Radio. When I'm not talking about breaking news or breaking news on ESPN Radio, I'm always a fan and listen to the Detroit Sports Podcast, and so should you.
Episode 153, Doc and Jock, now on the airwaves. Thank you so much for downloading another episode on our fine podcast network. I am the Doc, John Macaroon. Joining me, my cousin, Adam, the Jock Strozinski, and he's rocking the DSP attire. I absolutely love it. What's up, cuz? What's going down?
We got some big news for DSP, taking this thing to the next level. Absolutely. You know, we got a new sponsor?
We do. I'm very happy that, the 3 years that we've put into this project has started to now garner more buzz. We've taken more meetings regarding potential sponsors. People believe in the product that we're putting out there. And I think that, you and I together working with the sponsors has been really good, and I've enjoyed it thoroughly. We definitely give thanks to all the sponsors that work with us. And I know you're going to tell us about our newest sponsor.
Absolutely. Guys, you know what's cooler than the other side of the pillow? Definitely not you when you're running around the office with that stuffy, smelly, pit-stained dress shirt that's wrinkled to the high heavens. But don't worry, Uncle Jock's got you covered, or should I say Lawrence Hunt has you covered, with their moisture-wicking, anti-odor, breathable, 4-way stretch, 100% cotton dress shirt that will keep you cool like a fan in the summertime. Look, guys, I've been wearing mine for some time now, and I love them. They keep me cool, dry, and fresh-looking all day, so I can handle some business during the day and tear up the night while still looking fresh and clean. On top of it, the shirt's made, designed, and crafted by Detroiters in Detroit. To see all the incredible styles Lawrence Hunt has to offer, head over to lawrencehuntfashion.com. That's lawrencehuntfashion.com. And if you use promo code DSP, we're going to save you 15%. If you don't believe me, listen to Detroit Tigers catcher James McCann.
I'm a jeans and boots kind of guy, and taking my wife out to eat, I love putting on my Lawrence Hunt dress shirt. The way they stretch, the way they feel, they move with my body just like a t-shirt would. I know that I'm wearing a dress shirt, but it really doesn't feel like it.
If the gear is of high quality that James McCann is endorsing it, you definitely should check it out. Lawrence Hunt is a great sponsor of ours now, and I want to bring up something rather quickly in that a listener of our newest podcast, the First Lady podcast, had brought up that, hey, why'd you guys put a commercial spot right there at the beginning? And it's just someone that follows us. I was very gracious and kind of had a little bit of a discussion with them. Listen, we're doing this podcast because we love sports, but at the same time, when individuals or companies message us and they're like, hey, we'd like to work with you because maybe you have a following or an engaged audience, we are going to have sponsors. We're going to have spots. But the difference is we are not going to have 5 minutes of commercials. They're going to be sprinkled throughout a show. And for those of you that are new to podcasting, hey, it's a great way because you feel like you have a connection with the hosts here. We are not going to just take any single sponsor and promote their brand. We actually have meetings. We discuss with the potential sponsor how maybe we can, sell their brand. And hey, if an opportunity comes up, what do you want us to be like? No, we're not interested. Come on now. So for those of you that, messaged me, I get the point. Wherever we put it, we're going to have commercial spots. It's just the way it is. And I appreciate the feedback, but I would, for the listener who said they didn't give the First Lady podcast a listen because of the opening spot, I got to let you know you missed out because a lot of people downloaded and listened to that show. And I think you missed out on some hot Detroit sports takes talking about the Pistons because of your decision. I respect it. I messaged you. We talked about it, but to, diss us for having spots and sponsors, that doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make sense at all. But if that's the way you roll, I respect that.
Absolutely. And we're not just going to push any old product just because. The Lawrence Hunt shirt, I've been wearing them for some time now. Like when I say I've been wearing them, I've been wearing them. They're awesome. I mean, the products that we push or the companies that we sit there and we have working relationships with, we sit there, we check them out, we use their gear, we make sure that it's high quality products because we've got a responsibility to our listenership. We love everybody out there who takes the time to download our podcast, listen to what we've got to say, engage with us on all of our social networks. We feel responsible to you guys, and we want to make sure that we give you guys the best quality product. That's the reason why if we do have a sponsor and we have spent the time to sit there and kind of vet them and go through this process, and we sit there and we bring them on the air, there's a good reason that we're doing it. It's not just to sit there and push something to push something.
And to let you know, we work with the sponsors to have giveaways, to give back to the community out there that supports us. That's what we're about. We're not just here taking. Vito, the host of the Tigers Talk podcast, put together a charitable event for Make-A-Wish Foundation, a softball game that you're going to go out there and represent. And if you don't get a home run, you're going to be made fun of. I put a question.
I don't have home run power.
You don't have home run power?
No, I'm a singles hitter. I'm a big guy, but I got singles power. That's it, man.
Exactly.
I get on base and I'll just sit there and talk some messed up first baseman.
Yeah, so we try to give back, and that's what helps to keep this project going. Is not only do you develop a listenership, but you give back. And so we hope to do contests with Lawrence Hunt to give away things to our supporters and followers on our Twitter page, and that's what we try to do here. But to kick off this 153rd edition of our podcast, you as well have a beef with my Calvin Johnson is soft blast on the first edition of the First Lady podcast.
Absolutely. So if you haven't checked it out, go check out the First Lady's podcast. It was exceptional. It drops every Saturday. She does great work. She's really high energy. And of course, like I mentioned last week, she is scale of 1 to 10. This girl's been rated about a 14.5. All right, so let's get that out of the way here. You basically called Calvin a puss. You said he was weak sauce. Do you realize that this man has a finger on his hand that makes a 90-degree bend, and not towards himself, it bends sideways? On top of it, there were times throughout the season where he couldn't even get onto the practice field to sit there and just stretch out because he was so banged up. He was in the treatment facility sitting there getting worked on by the physical trainers. This guy has basically been through a blender, and he's giving you everything he's got, giving you absolutely everything he has. And he waves the white flag and says, you know what, my career's over. I'm never going to win a championship because it's the Lions, and we're just not close enough. And Matt Stafford basically puts my life at risk every time he throws the damn ball to me. 3rd and 15. Oh, I'm going to sit there and hang this one out the middle, and hopefully you don't get crushed by a linebacker and a safety all at the same time. He says, I'm done. Chalking it up. And then you've got the audacity to come on the air and be like, hey, Calvin, meow.
Well, listen, why do you have to come out and talk about it? We all know what he left on the field. We all know that, he had to have, work done on his knees. We all know that his fingers were all mangled. Why, after your career, do you have to come out and kind of sum up all your injuries? What are you trying to do? Drum up support?
ESPN wanted to talk to him.
Say no.
You tuned in, didn't you?
I did.
Okay, so you have to realize there's a relationship here, right? ESPN is trying to sit there and fill content. Also, they know that one of the very best premier wide receivers have just retired. You watched. I watched.
But look,
everybody who's listening.
I want to say, I look at it like this.
People watched. That's advertising dollars. So now they're making money. Calvin is now working on that next chapter of his life, whether it be writing that book that he talked about where he'll sit there and spill all the secrets of the Detroit Lions, or maybe do something on TV, or some type of an event for ESPN where he is a color commentary or something, and you're gonna sit there and you'll be like, don't talk about it? Come on, man. ESPN went to him and Michael Smith. I'm gonna put Michael Smith on blast here. Michael Smith asked so many leading questions. As a journalist, you don't sit there and you don't try to paint your subject into a corner. And Michael Smith tried doing that time and time and time again. So what you're saying is, if you didn't play for the Lions, you'd still be playing? What you're saying is, if you could come back and your contract wasn't going to be honored by the Lions, you'd come back and win a Super Bowl? What you're saying is, the reason why you're retiring is the Lions are such garbage that they basically forced your hand and you're going to be a crippled man by the time this is all said and done with because the Lions just haven't taken care of you. Michael Smith, you don't do that. You let the guy come out here and tell his story. You use his sound bites to sit there and flesh out your story and paint your picture. Utter joke.
Listen, I'm of the opinion that to play football, you got to be a warrior. And I look at guys that have been out there hurt, that have gotten dinged up in the past when they weren't, really evaluating for concussions, and they'd get out there, get the smelling salt back on the field. So maybe it might take me a while to not think that way because that's how I've been programmed. I'm not fully on board with the new wave athlete because
this coming from the psychologist who sat there and did a symposium on head trauma.
I did. If you have concussions and you feel like you can't go out there, you should say something for sure. But what I'm saying is I was programmed to look at guys that were warriors, that you go out there and potentially, hey, go out there and get on the field. But if you are incapable or you got your bell rung, then that's something different. What I'm saying is he's got mangled fingers. He's got, knee issues, running, pain in his joints, things like that. He's shuffling his feet in the morning. I'm like, listen, go out there, handle your business. If you want to walk away, just, hey, I'm going to walk away quietly. Not to come out here and tell everybody how hurt you are, how mangled you are, and this is why, all that kind of stuff. I'm thinking like one of the guys I respect is Ray Lewis, a guy that's a linebacker. Don't you think a linebacker gets dinged up and smashed into, has more contact than a wide receiver? Ray Lewis played until his mid-30s.
Ray Lewis is a beast. Ray Lewis killed a man, allegedly.
I want a guy like Ray Lewis. I want a guy like J.J.
love
Watt.
Ray Lewis. He's crazy.
I think J.J. Watt, you're going to have to drag him off the football field. That's a guy that when his last day comes, he's going to have to be dragged off the field. I feel like, and you know what? What drove my thinking to call him that is that I really feel like, and the interview kind of painted that and cemented it for me, and Michael Smith kind of brought it up, is that Calvin Johnson is a dude that plays football.
That's what I was about to say.
And I want a football player. That's what I want.
He has other interests.
Right.
He has other things that he's involved with outside of his life on the field. And sometimes, you sit there, you play football to get yourself to a certain level. He played football. He's at that level now. His body hurts. He's breaking down. He now has a child. He's got a wife. He wants to spend time with his kid. He wants to spend time with his wife. He wants to be able to sit there, and when his kid goes to graduate, he doesn't want to sit there and have to be wheeled to the ceremony when the kid's trying to walk down the aisle there to get his diploma. I think just respect the man's decision. He brought you great highlights, brought you some heartbreaking moments. I'll always remember the catch, no catch at Soldier Field. I will always remember the ball getting batted out of the back of the end zone when they were playing the Seahawks. Among other things, I'll always remember him going up and grabbing the ball between three guys when they're taking on the Cincinnati Bengals. So he's brought you good moments, brought you some bad moments. Respect the dude's decision. I don't think he's soft for leaving. I just think at this point in his life and at this point in his career, football is no longer the number one priority. And if that's not your number one priority, you shouldn't be on the field because one of two things are going to happen.
You're going to get hurt.
You're going to get hurt, possibly die. And two, you're going to sit there, you're no good for your team. Football is a weird sport where you are accountable to the other 52 guys on that roster. So if you're not giving it your all, get the hell off the boat.
You know what I'm going to remember Calvin Johnson for?
What?
His last game walking off with Matthew Stafford. That picture of him looking like, oh my gosh, I love you, Matthew. Let me give you that last hug.
I can't believe you called him
SAWFT.
Soft.
I give him credit for playing football. I'm not exactly thrilled with the way he left, but hey, teach his own. He obviously has a lot of respect in the community, and he's one of the great NFL wide receivers out there. I'm just talking about the fact of how he left the game, how he kind of has talked about his injuries and things like that. Some things need to be, maybe some things could be left unsaid, and that's all. Maybe the better way to put it is the manner in which he left the game is not one that Megatron, a man of his stature with that name, I would expect to go out.
All right, speaking of playing, because there's no way I'm going to convince you otherwise. Speaking of playing, have you jumped on the new craze, Pokemon Go, at all?
No, I downloaded the app.
Have you played it all?
I have not.
You caught a Pokemon?
I downloaded the app, and
because the parking lot here is full of Pokemon.
Are they really?
There's like 4 or 5 of them out there. When I pulled up, I got one.
I did see finally when we were recording the Tigers Talk podcast, a dude out there with his phone walking around. Basically, I downloaded the app. I seen that there was a creature. I guess the first go around they keep it relatively close, so I just had to move to the wall there, and I swiped my first thing. And I'm like, okay, I get what people are doing, but I was starting to think, okay, maybe was there a way to kind of push a button to get people to kind of increase the Pokemons in the area, to get a bird or to get something special, a Pikachu in this area to see if people will come. I'm trying to make the studio a Poke Spot. But I can't.
That'd be so sweet.
I can't.
I need Pokeballs right now.
Yeah, exactly. See, I can't. I'm just getting into it from a marketing standpoint. But no, I'm not walking around in the community. If I want to get physical activity, there's something called a gym that has actually for grown-ups, ladies that go there. And when they work out, you can actually go and just kind of pay attention to what they're doing and stuff like that. So if you want to get physical exercise, that's my way of doing it.
Leer creepily?
Leer creepily. Of course. Why? I mean, since when is walking physical activity? They're like, congratulations, kids are walking outside. It's not like you know what they should do if they want to. Make it so that if you run, potentially you can get more. Why is it they're like, oh, they're just like taking a leisurely stroll through the neighborhood, swiping stuff. And the best part is, though, when you're driving, you see these kids in bushes. Like you see,
oh yeah, they're everywhere, and you'll see. And it won't be one; it'll be like 3 or 4 of them, just like congregating. But I will say this: my wife downloaded it. She came home on Friday and showed it to me, and I was like, you know what? I got to do this. After playing it for like an hour on her phone, I downloaded it, and I will say that her and I have taken more strolls around my block trying to pick up Pokemon and hit the Poke Spots to get Pokeballs than I ever have with her. Normally, we go home after she normally works like a 12, 13-hour day because she works at a hospital. She gets done with her shift. She comes home. She's done. She'll take a shower. I usually have dinner ready. I'm a good wife. I have dinner ready. I sit there and make things for her, feed her. She's good to go. Sit on the couch. Things are done. Yesterday, she was like, hey, let's go for a walk. Let's go do something. Let's go see if we can go get some Pokemon. Dude, we went for a half-hour walk around my neighborhood. And you know I don't live in the best neighborhood, so that was a little bit weird and leery, but whatevs. It was all good, dude.
Metaphorically, do you see the symbolism of that? The only way you would walk with your wife, your life partner, is to pick up animated things on your phone.
Look, I tried getting
Come on, man.
I tried getting her to go run with me yesterday. All right, and she was like, "No, I'm just gonna sit here on the couch." And I was like, "All right, well, I'm training for a half marathon, so I got to go do this. So you can come with me or you can't." And she's like, "No." So it's more on her because I invited her to go for a run with me, and she's like, "No," but she would only walk with me to go catch animated characters. So maybe I'm the issue here in our marriage. I don't know. You're the psychologist. You figure it out.
Friend of the podcast, Justin Rose, gives the trend 6 weeks. How long is this going to last? Because it's annoying, and I don't find a joy in playing a game on your phone. If they make it a little easier, maybe if it doesn't suck your battery. I guess I hear that it takes up a lot of data.
Your battery.
Yeah, so it's a big thing. I just wish I would have got in on it earlier, maybe put some money in because the company, their stock went up huge based on it, but I don't see it going more than 6 weeks. I agree.
Did you ever play when you were a kid? Pokemon?
No.
For the Game Boy or whatever?
No, I did not.
No. See, I played the original red and the original blue version. I was sick in the hospital. My grandmother bought me both of those. And that was my first step into the Pokemon world and basically my last step into the Pokemon world because after that, I kind of grew up a little bit and stopped playing. This game is great, though, because it kind of tugs on those old heartstrings of nostalgia, kind of reminds you of your childhood when you were a kid and you got that Game Boy and you got the Pokemon and you were playing. So it's great. On top of it, you get to do it all on your phone. It's with you everywhere. And it uses the real world, like all kinds of cool shit out there. You just go, it's a Pokestop. It's awesome.
Pokestops.
Dude, I use the word Poke so much in this last segment. You'll never hear me say it this many times.
But the best part was, though, seeing respected sites like Arlington Cemetery tweet out, hey, this is a kind of a place where you have to have some decorum. Please don't come play Pokemon here. It's quite disrespectful.
But all your spooky Pokemon are in there.
Oh my gosh, I can't believe this country and what became trends. I thought I'd be shocked by what became trends, and this one definitely shocked me. A game on your phone has become the rage. If you're over 15, I think it's weak. Get out to the gym and don't play on your phone doing that. It's just weird.
I don't know, man. I'm cool with it. I love it. You hate on everything. You hate on Calvin. You hate on Pokemon. I'm a lover, bro.
You know what I love?
How over the course of 3 years have we taken these like the tables have just turned here. I used to be the one who was full of like vitriol and anger and hatred, and now I just want to sit there and hug somebody. And you're over there like burn it all to the ground. I hate it all.
No, I get it, but what I'm saying is it's a kid's game that, when adults do it, I could be like, you know what? Well, I
got better stuff to do.
Exactly. I'm doing 3-4 different things. I'm busy and playing games on the phone. If I'm going to get out there for entertainment, I like talking to people. I like hanging out. I like podcasting. I like looking at sporting events. I like going to the gym. I like doing things in real time with people. But I do definitely think if virtual reality becomes affordable, I probably will get into that pretty quickly. If you can maybe actually put on some goggles and maybe be at a game or simulate something like that, sporting wise, or simulate other things.
Yeah, in virtual reality sex, which is the new craze. You're such a weirdo.
I might check into that and give that a positive thumbs up.
Yeah.
You know what I'm into now? Major League Baseball All-Star Week. Perfect. Can we extend it another week? It came at the right time.
That way we don't have to watch our Tigers?
Exactly. Take another week off so that we don't have to check in with what the hell they were doing. Brad Ausmus again revealed himself to be mediocre at best in the last week. A ton of mistakes, well documented. And so they come into the break, I think, 46 and 43. They're doing okay. They're in second place. They're within striking distance. They're not in the ideal prime position. But when you just look at the Tigers, the biggest word that you just come up with is underachieving. You feel like this team could do so much more. And whether you feel like Brad Ausmus needs to do more, whether you feel like the pitching staff could do more, whether you feel like decisions that are being made could be made in a much more proficient way to help the club, I just don't see not making moves as an option for this team. And I think Miguel Cabrera came out and said that I think there are going to be a couple adjustments made. And as long as they don't give up too much prime talent, I'm so excited to see what the moves are. But the first half was kind of managed in a way like you were 15 games above 500, like you were in first place. They kind of were blasé. They kind of gave games away. Even in the series versus Toronto, you did some things that were not acceptable. Brad Ausmus, when you have a chance to go out there and get a win, you go get it. Go earn a victory. Use your closer for 4 outs. Even if it's for the second time, we know you're not going to do it all the time. We know it's not your preference, but get out there and manage in a way that's going to help you win. If Anibal Sanchez sucks, and we all know that day that he's pegged to be the starter, that he's going to get rocked, when he's matching up against Donaldson and he's giving you 4 innings and you're still within 2-0, you don't let him pitch. Do some things outside the box. Do some things that might help this team win. We all know that when Sanchez went out there versus Toronto, it was going to be a loss. He got you 4 innings and with only giving up 2 runs. You made key mistakes. Donaldson came back to crush you. Now it's 5-0. You lose the game. So I do believe that with a different manager, they would be sitting 8 to 12 games above 500 with a different manager and making different decisions. And I do believe that I'm hoping in the second half that there's going to be a lot of hope with returning players, guys that have been injured coming back, and with moves made by Alavila. I got a good feeling, I don't know why, that Alavila is going to work the phones and work some magic. But if it comes in that you have to give up Boyd and Norris to get a guy like Rich Hill, I would be shocked if they made a move that drastically to get a guy in his 30s to help. You need a guy that you can control for a couple years that could help this club and maybe give up one of them. You trade Boyd and maybe someone else in the minors, hey, I could do that to get a guy that's going to be a starter, a day-to-day player every day. But I have hope. I'm not giving up, but a week break was exactly what the doctor ordered for sure.
Through 89 games, I can't believe we're still talking about firing Brad Ausmus. I can't believe you went back to that tired well just to sit there and break it down. Absolutely, they've been inconsistent from the beginning of the season to the All-Star break. That's what they are. We said it a couple times. They're about a 500 team. The hope is that they're a couple games above 500, and that can get them into the wild card. So all that being said, I'm going to kind of turn this on you a little bit. I want to speak a little bit positively, and then we can speak a little bit negatively. How about that? All right? Because you just sat there and you just spewed a whole bunch of anger, talking about firing Brad Ausmus, talking about this, that, going out for Rich Hill. Honestly, do you really want Rich Hill? Rich Hill's had 1, maybe 2 good seasons his entire career. He seems to have found the fountain of youth this season. And if you give up a guy like a Norris or a Boyd or a combination of both, or maybe a Joe Jimenez, you're an idiot. You're an absolute idiot. And if that's the case, then we need to fire Alavila. But keeping it positive, I want to know what you've liked the most from this Tiger team through this roller coaster first half.
What I've liked is the emergence of guys that maybe we wrote off too early, or the emergence of players that we thought were not going to be contributors, guys that we should trade that have kind of stepped it up. Nick Castellanos' first half is really unbelievable when you look at the scope of what he's actually done. Above a 300 hitter, I believe 17 home runs at the break, clutch hits, and the part that I hone in on that I'm really impressed by is his improved footwork at third base. He's actually been serviceable, hasn't been absolute abysmal fielder. He's made plays in the field as well, getting the ball, flinging it over there to first base, getting guys out. So he's a guy that took the criticism in the manner in which you should as an athlete, not to get bitter, but to improve yourself. You can tell he's trimmer, stronger, and that he's contributing in a way that's just unbelievable, and he's really helped this team even get to 46 wins. And then what I've liked is that finally a guy that everyone across Major League Baseball says, this is a guy. You got Fulmer, good stuff, clap, clap, clap. You got a guy that, this is a piece, this is a guy. When people say that, sometimes we get excited as fans and they go out there and they kind of look like Daniel Norris. And you go, oh boy, well, he was good for, an at-bat and a couple starts last year, but now we stick him in every day and, he can't throw 50 pitches without twisting a rib. You got Fulmer out there. He's a guy that everyone, when we got him, was like, look out for him. This is an elite guy. This could be a Hall of Fame guy. And he comes out there and you look at his stat line, 0 runs, 1 run, 0 runs, 1, 2, 3 innings, fastball, complete package. You're like, oh, when's Fulmer pitching next? When's his next spot in the rotation? Is the organization going to limit his pitches? Please, let's see what he can do. And you got a guy finally like that in your organization, a la what JV did. So it's a nice transition in that Michael Fulmer has the potential. He works hard, keeps his nose to the grindstone, evolves as a pitcher. He could be something super duper special. It's nice to see it so fast. Then the other part that I'm really, really impressed with is the fact that guys that are veterans have been kind of stepping up as of late. Ian Kinsler has put this team on his back and has just been massively productive. Guys like V-Mart have been productive as of late. So that's good. But what we need is basically a more consistent team production all across the board. Miguel comes and goes. You got guys from the lower half of the lineup that kind of disappeared. And you got guys like McCann that could step it up. Iglesias could probably do a little bit more. And then the other part that I'm impressed with is that you found potentially, I think I'm ready to say it, K-Rod is a guy that, if allowed to do his thing, utilized properly, I'm not as butthurt when he comes into the game as I used to be with other closers. So those are the things I'm impressed with.
Absolutely. Speaking about Nick Castellanos, he has worked on his game so severely that he's better than a serviceable third baseman. He has a WAR of almost 2 right now. All right. You're going to take that every day of the week. On top of it, he's hitting for power, hitting for average. He's moving guys around. His game has come full circle. I think another year or two.
Should we trade him?
No, absolutely not. This is a piece that you're going to build around.
Right.
Honestly, come next season, don't be surprised if he sits there and builds on what he already is doing great this season. He's going to become a better player. You got to remember, he's very young as well. And like you said, Michael Fulmer, you get to meet Michael Fulmer out at the Fraser store with Fanatic U coming up Sunday at about 6 o'clock in the evening. So sit there, follow us on Twitter for all of our tweeting about that, and you can get in on the sweepstakes there for that. But Michael Fulmer, honestly, he's a bad MFer. He is incredible. The guy, he is your best pitcher right now. He's the most consistent guy you have. And the issue is, he's a rookie. He's probably going to win Rookie of the Year, which is awesome. When was the last time we can say that we've had a Tiger do that? His innings are going to be limited. He's going to be on a pitch count. You need to sit there and you need to save his arm. The only issue is you're in such a hole right now where you're trying to win the Central Division that you don't need him to be on a pitch count. You don't want him to be on a pitch count. You don't need his innings to be tracked. You need him to go out there. You need him to take the ball every 5th day, and you need him to give you 7 or 8 strong innings. It's not going to happen, though. This is not the season for it. You don't want to kill a future arm by sitting there trying to go for the gusto this season. So you have to make some moves. You're going to have to do a couple things, and we'll kind of delve into that. But those two guys are the highlights of this first half of the season. On the flip side, there's quite a bit of negativity. You don't like Ausmus. You think Ausmus should be fired. I think their health is a bigger concern for me. You've got guys in your starting rotation that you don't even know what they are. You don't know what they're going to do. What is Daniel Norris? Can anybody say? What I know about Daniel Norris is every time he takes the ball, he always seems up with an oblique strain. And I don't understand how it happens. I mean, do some crunches, do some side bends, something. Work on your core. How do you keep having an oblique strain? You've got Jordan Zimmerman, who the first half of the season, he was your lights out guy. He was your stud. You know, we're putting him number 1 and putting Verlander number 2. He's hurt now. This is the second time on the DL. So I think health-wise, you got to figure out what you got. That way you can sit there and look at what you're going to need and address your needs. There's no reason that Pelfrey, no reason that Anibal Sanchez, those guys should be in your starting rotation. Not when you've got young kids like a Michael Boyd, when Daniel Norris gets healthy, when Jordan Zimmerman comes back at full go. There's no reason those guys should still be in your starting lineup. Absolutely not. You know, I don't know what Mike Pelfrey's role could be on this team. I don't know if he would be serviceable in the bullpen. I know that he's not a reliable starting pitcher. And I know that Anibal Sanchez, he might give you 3 innings, might give you 4. He definitely isn't giving you 5. So move him to your bullpen. He looked great when he came out of the bullpen. He looked good. You know, and when was the last time we could say Anibal Sanchez has looked good at anything this season? It's only coming out of the bullpen. Put him there. Let him rival in that. Let him do that. There's no reason to sit there and try to force square pegs and round holes.
And one thing that you said last week when you talked about the use of Anibal Sanchez, Mike Pelfrey, Lowe, and it's something that has been the most glaring weakness of the Detroit Tigers is they are trying their absolute best to draw something out of guys they're paying highly. And it's coming at the cost of victories. When you got a guy like Anibal Sanchez, yes, we all know you're paying him $16 million. Yes, we all know that Pelfrey finagled you, did something to you, held pictures over you for something to get 2 years and $16 million. Lowe has come in and has been probably the biggest disappointment so far in that we thought we had a guy that would be a flamethrower that would get guys out. And he's just come out there, and when you're listening to the radio, you're driving home, you feel good after a day of work, you're helping people, and Dan Dickerson comes on the radio and he's like, I have never seen this before. A guy that's given up 10 home runs in 27 innings? I don't understand what's going on here. And you're like, what do you mean you've never seen that before? You're now seeing it. It's freaking Mark Lowe. And yet, 3 days later, who's back on the mound? Mark Lowe. What are you trying to do, man? You know, trying to have him give up 50 home runs in the 100 innings he's going to work this year? it's one of those things where the biggest indictment of what the Tigers have done the first half is when there's guys that haven't performed, they haven't been willing to sit their asses down and take them out of the game. Pelfrey has steadily improved, but not to the point where I would consistently use him, not to the point where he's a starter. Anibal Sanchez, his last 2-3 starts, whether it be due to injury or not, needs to be on the bench. He should not be throwing. He should be in the bullpen situationally, 1 inning. That's about all he can give you. You don't think guys from the minors can give you this? You don't think, I mean, I know that they think that he's the best option, but I would rather have a young kid learn and give up 15, 16 home runs and just work his way through than have a guy that we all know already that doesn't have it. So are they afraid to eat the contracts? Are they afraid to do those things? Hell, if you're throwing out there $200 million, that's a bigger indictment if you don't know how to allocate your funds. And when guys aren't performing, I just think they're waiting and waiting and hoping and hoping. And I think that's what's failed them the last couple of years is guys that haven't produced with whatever you're paying, they need to be sat. Period. Anibal Sanchez should not start anymore. Period. Mike Pelfrey should not start anymore. Mark Lowe needs an extended time off. You know that Mark Lowe is going to be there that first game back. Kansas City, they'll be up 2-1. Who are they going to throw out there? Mark Lowe. That's the part that's devastating is that the guys that we feel that we look at are going to be incompetent have been thrown in there time again. And when Anibal Sanchez gives up the gopher ball to Josh Donaldson, you just go, seriously? Really?
Mike Pelfrey was brought here. You said some pictures, nudie pictures or something, whatever. He was brought here based upon a scout's recommendation. This scout was his buddy from high school.
No, seriously?
Yes.
That's how you get hooked up.
That's how he got brought
I think
here.
that turned me around a little bit. I might be on his side now.
Yeah.
He got the hookup.
Yeah.
He got the Arab hookup? Seriously?
That's how he got here.
Oh.
It was basically his buddy who was a scout for the Tigers, gave a good word to Al Avila, because when they signed him, they're like, this is a scout signing. And everybody's like, why are you bringing this guy in? He's a total dumpster fire. I mean, shit, I was screaming that he was a dumpster fire for months when we found out that he was signed. I hated the signing.
And I hate when people say that's the going rate. Okay, give him 1 year. Why would you give him 2?
Yep.
2 years? The going rate for a mediocre, a going rate for a mediocre pitcher is $8 million a year.
You could have got a guy like Doug Fister who's tearing it up for Houston right now. It made absolutely no sense. You look at kind of what happened, it totally makes sense. His buddy went to bat for him, and he's been a total train wreck through most of the season. You're right, he has steadily gotten better, but when you go from being like a -15 to being a -10, whip-de-freaking-do. You're not doing it for me. So yeah, he got the hookup. His high school classmate was like, yeah, he'll be all right. He'll be good. Let's bring him in.
Oh my gosh, that's so unbelievable to hear that some nepotism got him favor with the Tigers organization. I can't believe it. They're going to have the rest of this week off up until Friday. They're on the All-Star break. So tomorrow, Friday, the Tigers will start a 3-game stint versus KC. And the pitching matchups are pretty favorable in the Tigers matchup to at least get 2 wins. I think it's very important that this stretch of games that they come out and play strongly because their schedule, when you look at it throughout the course of July and August, it kind of thins out and that we're not playing teams that are going to be great. It kicks off with a little bit of a challenge. You kick off 3 games versus KC, but they're at home. The Tigers are going to play, I think, around 50 games at home the rest of the way. I think it's going to be quite a bit at home, which you've had success as of late. So I think it's very important that at minimum you get 2 out of 3 versus Kansas City and you give the fans a reason to come back. You go out there, you get swept by KC and you look terrible and Brad Ausmus is still making bad decisions, the pitching staff is getting rocked, or the bullpen gives up leads and you still have some of the same symptoms. You're looking at fans that are probably going to be look to football and start the transition right now. And, I think a lot of people are starting to peek at what's going on with football because both college teams in this fine state are looking to have some fun and success this year.
Absolutely. The second half of the season sets up really nice for them. You're going to be playing a lot against your interleague division opponents. You're going to play a lot against Kansas City, a lot against Chicago, and a lot against the Minnesota Twins. So those are games that you should win and that you have to win. In September, that's when they sit there and they'll finish off their season with Cleveland, so you don't have to worry about Cleveland for quite some time. You got a good chance to sit there and make up some ground on Cleveland, and that way when you sit there and you face off against them for your final 7 games against them, you can sit there and hopefully you can get on the plus side of that split. But the rest of the season sets up really nice. I think they'll be okay. Look for them to make up some ground, again, playing Kansas City, Chicago. They've totally devoured the Twins this season. Twins haven't stood a chance against them. It's really similar to what's happened with us with Cleveland. So they've got some ground to make up. They've got the potential to do it. I think going forward, before the trade deadline, this team has to really get healthy. They've got to look at what they have. If you don't know what you've got with a guy like a Daniel Norris, you don't know what you have with a guy like a Matt Boyd, you kind of see what you have with Shane Green, and he's done a real great job taking over that bullpen role. How are you going to be able to address what you need to add on this team? And you don't want to get rooked into some kind of crazy deal where you're giving up some of your future for a talent this year. Like you said, you want to get a guy that you're going to have some control over, maybe this year, next year, the season after. That's really what you're looking to try to do. You would love, I feel, to bolster your starting rotation. If Daniel Norris comes back healthy, Jordan Zimmerman comes back healthy, maybe you can mess around with Shane Green, maybe move him to the starting rotation. At that point, you got to look at your relief pitching. I think your starting lineup is good. Your everyday starting lineup is good. I think there are some guys out there who maybe don't deserve to be playing as much as they are, but you're injured right now. You've got some injuries that you're dealing with a guy like a JD Martinez. So get your health figured out. You can then look at this team and kind of move from there, headed into the trade deadline coming out of the All-Star break.
Before we take a break and play a round of Jock Jams and talk about the really awful week for a lot of professional athletes, one factor that leads you to believe the Tigers will make the postseason.
The fact that you've gotten the bulk of your games against Cleveland out of the way the first half. On top of that, you're not going to have any more 10-game road trips. And like you said, you're going to have a lot of games at home. On top of it, you're playing against teams like Cleveland, Chicago, and Minnesota. Those are teams that you can win and that you can get victories against. So I think the schedule sets up really nicely. So in one word, the schedule.
The schedule?
Or 2 words, I guess. The schedule.
The schedule. One factor that leads you to believe this could be a disaster and they're going to fall short of their goals. Brad Ausmus.
Yeah. And I don't want to say it, but yeah, Brad Ausmus. Why would you allow your third base coach to sit there and send a guy
time and time again,
a guy like Victor Martinez when it's a fly out to the outfield? You know the guy runs slower than molasses in January. He's got 2 bad knees. You're going to send him anyways, and this is a game where you need runs. You have to get runs. You have to help insulate yourself against a guy like Anibal Sanchez just imploding on the mound, but you're going to send him anyways so he can get tagged out by a mile as he comes to home plate. So yeah, Brad Ausmus. Brad Ausmus and his control over the coaching staff. I think he puts too much power in too many guys' hands.
Well said. You know what? I'm so happy the break came. The All-Star game was decent. Miguel didn't do a whole heck of a lot, but if the Tigers, miraculously make a run, the AL has won the right to host the World Series. But I don't like the 2-3-2 format. I don't like that at all because home teams, you just get that first victory on the opponent's home field, and you get 3 games at home. I don't like that at all. I don't like that one bit, but I don't think the Tigers are going to be in the World Series. That's just my simple take on that.
Hey, man, 2006, they weren't even supposed to be mentioned in the conversation, and next thing you know, they're headed there. They ended up getting, a week off, and that ended up doing them no service, but again, 2006, they weren't supposed to be there. You just got to get in. Crazy things happen.
All right, stay with us. Doc and Jock, episode 153. We'll roll along right after this. I want to tell you about a great sponsor and a great promotion that we're running this week on the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. Fanatic U has been a great sponsor of ours, so definitely go check out Detroit Sports official outfitter and the official outfitter of the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. Go check out fanaticu.com for all your Detroit sporting needs. And this week, Fanatic U has just been so kind and gracious. They're allowing 2, not 1, 2 of our followers at Detroit Podcast the opportunity to go on Sunday, 6 o'clock, after Fulmer start. Maybe he'll have a complete game shutout versus Kansas City, start his second half off great. He's going to roll down, get shower fresh, come down to the Fanatic U in Fraser, right there on Groesbeck, and at the Fraser location, Michael Fulmer will do a signing. And so what Fanatic U is going to allow is 2 of our followers at Detroit Podcast will be allowed to have a VIP experience, not wait in line, not have to pay anything, get a chance to take a picture with Michael Fulmer, get a baseball that he will sign, and he will take a picture with you. And all you got to do, follow us on our Twitter page at Detroit Podcast, and just tweet at Detroit Podcast, at Fanatic U Sports, one word to describe Michael Fulmer. You can just use as many words creatively as you want, tweet as many times as you want. The more creative, the more innovative. If you have a crazy profile, that might get our attention, and we'll pick 2 of you out there to have a VIP experience. And that's what we try to do here at this podcast network, is not only have fun between us, because the whole crew is great. There's not one person that you would say is a bad apple. What we try to do is have fun in the studio, and we also try to give back to those that keep this ship afloat. And what we do is we give creative, fun experiences to those that follow us. So check out Fanatic U Sports, check out Detroit Sports Podcast, get in there. We'll have a chance to meet and chat on Sunday. All right, sir. Another episode halfway through, episode 153 on the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. This is what we call Jock Jams. Man, cuz starting to feel old. Used to check out Tim Duncan play at Wake Forest, have watched his career, and he's just been an ultra cool professional, great success, has elevated himself based on his play to be talked about as one of the elite power forwards, maybe top 5 all around. I know that's been debated, but 2 NBA Hall of Famers upcoming retired this season. Kobe Bryant and Tim Duncan, 2 potential Hall of Famers, and so it leads to the natural debate. Who would you rather have on your team if you could just have one? Kobe Bryant, Tim Duncan, who was better?
I don't think there's any potential about it. I think they are Hall of Famers. They'll be going in, most definitely. Let's first look at some stats, though, because when you talk about these players, they are incredible. What they've brought to the game, what they've done for the game has been exceptional. Both of them, 5-time NBA champions. Tim Duncan, a 3-time NBA Finals MVP. Kobe Bryant, a 2-time NBA Finals MVP. Tim Duncan, a 2-time NBA MVP. Kobe Bryant, an NBA MVP. 15-time All-Star Tim Duncan was, while Kobe Bryant was an 18-time All-Star. Tim Duncan was elected 10 times to the All-NBA First Team, 3 times to the All-NBA Second Team, 2 times to the All-NBA Third Team, and he was an 8-time All-NBA Defensive First Team Player and Rookie of the Year. While Kobe Bryant was an 11-time All-NBA First Team, a 2-time All-NBA Second and Third Team, and a 9-time All-NBA Defensive First Team Player. Also, he was a 2-time NBA League Scoring Champ. What really differentiates these 2 guys for me is you can make the argument that Tim Duncan was the piece that put them over the top to win at least 3 of their 5 championships. Every team that wins a championship, there's always that one piece, whether you acquire it through a trade, free agency, or somebody just elevates their game that much that they take over that spot to help put you over the hump. Tim Duncan, for their very first championship with David Robinson and his last 2, I think he was that piece, that solidifying piece that put them over the top to win an NBA championship. And because of that, I would take Tim Duncan. On top of it, one of the premier power forwards of our generation. Kobe Bryant's great. Kobe Bryant had to shoot a lot to win those 2 NBA League Scoring Champs. So I'm going to go Tim Duncan all day long.
I would disagree a little bit because, the factor that would lead me to take Kobe Bryant is his killer instinct. I know that people in his later part of his career were very willing to diss him, and he, as a guy that was a ball hog, a guy that wouldn't elevate other people, but he had such a competitive drive, and you got to remember that he tried his absolute best to commingle with Shaq, a guy that had a huge ego, and he had success with him and a little bit without him. Kobe Bryant had that killer instinct, a guy that reminds me a little bit of Michael Jordan. Tim Duncan is the prototypical great forward, but he probably needed to have some teams, had some success with the guys that he had around him. You don't have Manu Ginobili, you don't have shooters out there, you don't have guys, and you don't have a premier coach. Then I think a guy like Tim Duncan could maybe fall back in the shuffle. Whereas a guy like Kobe Bryant, you say that, he's got a killer instinct. He would have won a title wherever he went.
See, I don't know about that. He had to win a couple championships with Shaquille O'Neal. He had to have Phil Jackson as his coach. Phil Jackson's one of the all-time winningest coaches when it comes to NBA championships. On top of it, Tim Duncan, at certain points in his career, would take a step back to help elevate other players and make them great. You wouldn't know about Tony Parker. You wouldn't know about Manu Ginobili if Tim Duncan didn't sit there and play the team game and take that step back to help elevate those guys. Tim Duncan was a guy who didn't always need the ball in his hand or in his possession to sit there and help the team win. He did other things to sit there and make other players great. That's why I would go with Tim Duncan.
Does Kobe's legacy take a hit because of the last 4 years? Basically, he collected a check, had his injuries, and he basically broke down. And maybe as a guy not like Calvin, who kind of held on too long, and you kind of had to basically mop him off the floor?
That's a great question. It's a really tough question. I would love to say no, but I can see how you could argue opposite of that. The thing is, Kobe Bryant was a face of the NBA. He was on that Mount Rushmore. He was one of those guys in the league that helped carry the league. Even in those final 4 years where he sat there and he was half the player that he was still a great player.
See, this is one of those things where you actually helped me make my argument. I'm looking at a guy like Kobe Bryant who had several injuries and he tried to play through it. You think he really needed to come back after that, that tendon injury?
No, absolutely not.
He came back and fought through it. He didn't be like, oh, my legs hurt. Oh, this hurts. Oh, I got to do this and that. This is a guy that just did it. And see, I wouldn't say his legacy was tarnished. You could argue that he could have retired 1 or 2 years earlier. But hey, when someone's giving you $25 million a year, I'm going to be mopped off the court too.
You know why that Achilles and that knee blew out? It's because he was carrying the entire Lakers organization on his back.
No doubt.
So he had no other choice but to come back because he was the only draw. If he wasn't playing on those teams, Jack Nicholson wouldn't be there. Nobody would be there. Those stands would be absolutely empty if it wasn't for him. So he had a reason why he was asking for, I think his final year, he made $26 million? I'm not 100% sure off the top of my head, but I think it was $26 million. There was a reason why he was asking for that much money because he was carrying that entire organization. And the buses sat there, backed up the buses, and gave them all the money. They had to. They had nobody else. There was no other draw.
All right, moving to football. What are your thoughts on Pro Football Focus, who we know just absolutely love the Lions and Matthew Stafford, ranking the Detroit Lions offensive line the 11th worst in the NFL heading into the 2016 season, and their running back core the 7th worst in the NFL? We all know that Pro Football Focus just loves ranking the Detroit Lions.
When you sit there and you kind of delve into what they did here, I'm not really too put off by it. It seems about right. The offensive line, they have a lot of potential, and that's a very scary word because a lot of these guys have yet to live up to all of that potential. You have to realize over the last couple drafts, the Lions have taken any number one of these guys anywhere from the first to the third round. So they're young. They're very young. They're talented. They have to put it all together, and they have to prove that they're worth where they were drafted. On top of it, that running back core, when you're led by Amir Abdullah, who had fumble issues last season, that's a big problem. He can't hold on to the ball. You can't hold on to the ball. You can't get on the field. The only reason that they are elevated as much as they are in this is because of Theo Riddick. And Theo Riddick was a guy who, through most of last season, me and you talked about how we were impressed with his play, the fact that he was a dual threat. He could run between the tackles, and he could catch that outside pass and break it for a long play. Theo Riddick is the only reason that they get elevated to 7th. They'd be much lower on this list. So I don't necessarily have an issue with where Pro Football Focus ranked them. The thing is, they lean on each other. So this season's going to be very interesting. If this offensive line can take another step forward, if these players can get better and there is some development there, then this running back core is going to get elevated and it's going to look much better.
Have you checked out the Amazon series All or Nothing with the Arizona Cardinals?
No.
Oh, have you heard about it?
No.
Oh, you didn't heard anything at all?
Fill me in.
Let me fill you in. I want you to check it out. If you get anybody that you can lift their Amazon, subscription service, if they have Prime or anything, you can get it. It's 8 parts, 8 hours, in depth. They spent the entire 2015 season with the Cardinals, going from their draft all the way through their elimination by the Panthers. And it's unbelievable. It is, I'm telling you, you will watch 6 minimum right in a row. I watched it over the last couple weeks, and it's unbelievable. It's basically an amped up version of Hard Knocks, but with one team. And you get a glimpse of how the organization was run from behind the scenes to profiling some players to Bruce Arians, what a really unbelievable coach he is. And there's a fascinating scene regarding, they were assuming that, okay, good, in their draft room, it's in the early episodes, they're sitting around, the staff is going, they're excited because they go, I think we're going to get Amir Abdullah. And they're on the phone with Amir Abdullah going, we're going to draft you, da-da-da-da-da. All of a sudden, they're like, what? The Lions are calling them right before the Cardinals pick. And they're like, oh, okay, call us back, and da-da-da. They hang up the phone, and the management looks at each other, and they're like, shit, the Lions are going to take Amir Abdullah. And they take him, and you get a glimpse of like, wow, our plan to solidify our running back core has just went out the window. But then in later rounds, they look at the film of the guy they drafted, the budding superstar Johnson, and they go, I think this is a guy we can take in a later round. And the All or Nothing series, I promise.
Do you remember who wanted the Lions to take that guy? He's sitting right across from you.
Yeah.
I said you could have got him, I think, in the 3rd or 4th round when I sat there and I redid my draft.
Exactly. And so it's a great look at a football organization week in, week out in terms of preparation, what is said, what is done with a team that had an unbelievable record, I think 13-3 in the regular season, their unbelievable playoff game versus Green Bay, and the eventual destruction that they went through versus the Carolina Panthers. It's a great series. I hope they do it again. But yeah, it's binge watchable. It's 5-star viewing, a great series, one that I can't speak highly enough. When you check it out, you're going to be like, wow, why didn't I hear about this? It should be promoted more. It should be right there on network television, how good that series was produced. And you get a little bit of a glimpse of the general manager, the owner, the president, a glimpse of the whole organization. It's well done, 5-star. If you haven't seen it, you're missing out. You got to check it out. All or Nothing. Amazon hooked it up. They did a great job.
I'm going to check this out. This sounds incredible.
Incredible.
I love Hard Knocks. I think it's great. I think it's a really good show. I get sucked into whatever's going on the NFL Network all the time. The top 10 list, all that stuff.
I basically own the next 8 hours of your life because I know that you're going to sit and watch it and you're going to be like, wow, this is great. Why didn't I hear about it? It was, I tweeted about it a little bit. Some people tweeted out some clips early on and how great it was. But yeah, you'll binge watch it. No doubt you'll get at least 4 out of the way when you first see it.
That's great. Yeah, I'm going to check it out for sure.
All right, speaking of football, in a recent MLive article, Kyle Austin, very interesting article. When I read it, I'm like, seriously? But when I thought about it more, when I was preparing the question for you, I was like, you know what? I think I get it regarding Michigan and Michigan State. But Kyle Austin details how Michigan and Michigan State brings in their millions and $1 million of support for the football programs. And the key points are that naturally, like you would assume, when Michigan State has success in football, there's a good correlation between financial contributions and the success of the Michigan State football program. What was interesting and kind of was, something that you look at and you go, I wouldn't think that, is that Michigan was different. The more they lost, the more money comes in. Michigan State, Michigan. Why is Michigan State running it this way? And is Michigan crazy for, having this situation where when they lose money, more finances tend to come in? Are Michigan fans and contributors a little bit loopy?
This is a really weird correlation because, like you said, it was a more natural progression as MSU won. There was more donor contributions and more money allocated to the football team from outside sources. As Michigan lost more and more games, basically they were in the toilet during the Brady Hoke era, they seen this expansive increase in revenue that just came to help the Michigan football program out.
Exactly.
Made absolutely zero sense.
It makes sense.
Well, I guess because Michigan fan and Michigan alumni feel they can just throw dollar bills at problems.
There you go.
And that's what this shows. It just blew my mind the way that Michigan alumni and the alumni base handle real life issues. Instead of just saying, hey, you know what? We need to go out and get a real good coach. No. Let's just throw millions and millions of dollars at it. It basically, you're just sitting there backing up Brinks trucks and setting them on fire is essentially what happened here. It blew my mind to see this correlated with these graphs that Kyle Austin did. It was like, I was like, are you serious right now? Like, has the Michigan fan base lost all touch with reality? Like, you guys sit there and you believe your hype so much. And I'm a Michigan fan. Believe your hype so much that you think that you could just sit there and pull dollar bills out of your pocket and basically staple them to Brady Hoke's forehead. Like, here, fix the football program. No, idiot. It's not going to work that way. It doesn't work that way. You need a good football coach. Somebody knows what the hell they're doing. And you seen it last year with Jim Harbaugh. Jim Harbaugh comes in. Next thing you know, this team's doing some really good things. I think Jim Harbaugh is a little eccentric. I think we would all agree he's a lot eccentric, but he's a hell of a football coach. He makes you better. He got Jake Rudock drafted. What was Jake Rudock before Jim Harbaugh?
Just a guy from Iowa.
That's it. You got a really good football coach right now. I think that the spending will continue because the more you win, if you go based off of what MSU is showing, the more you win, the more money comes in. So I believe more money will continue to flow in through Michigan's coffers. It just blew my mind that the more that they lost until they were basically in a dumpster, set on fire, and MSU and Ohio State were standing around it, pissing on everything but the dumpster that was burning that said Michigan on it. Fans continued to sit there and just throw money into that dumpster, just watching it burn.
No, I don't say watching it burn, but that's the mentality that the supporters have is that, hey, I can help rescue the program, I can contribute, whereas when they're winning, they're like, okay, all the rich guys can take over, but now if they're losing, hey, maybe I can throw some support financially, and maybe that will signify to them that they're trying to help out. And that's how I took it, as that, hey, Michigan, no matter what, is going to have great support, and we've talked about it with a lot of people that all over the country, a lot of people love to wear that Block M. And when they were struggling, people felt like, what's going on here? This is Michigan. Maybe we can kick in some finances, kick in some more support in order to maybe in their own minds think that it's something that can help with paying out coaches if they want to blow out, or helping with facilities, or helping out in any way possible. Michigan is just, I'm interested to look at the numbers in more detail, how much money comes in, but you got to know it ranks up there in that the people that go to Michigan tend to be very successful, and they're also very willing to take out some money out of their pocket and spend it. And so I'm very interested in to see how, with the lax schedule that Michigan's going to have in 2016, when they kick off the season 6-0, 7-0, how this is going to shape perception and things like that. Already, I get to open SportsCenter, read the paper, and see that Michigan's already a favorite in East Lansing in the betting lines, which is hilarious, utterly hilarious. And but I don't question people's support of Michigan. It's there. Hell, if you're going to, definitely kick out some financial support, it's quite interesting that they were willing to do it even more when Michigan was losing. Great round of Jock Jams, sir.
But if I ask you a question before we transition out of Jock Jams here?
No problems. What's up?
So, have you been paying any attention to the Anthony Ghost saga that's been going on?
Demoted to Double-A. Yeah, crazy, huh?
He gets in a little bit of a tiff with Floyd McClendon. He gets demoted to Double-A, and the press release came out and basically said, hey, we hope this works for him, a fresh start, a clean start. We'll see what happens. Have you ever seen a player basically be with the big club? And he was a huge part of what went on last season. I mean, I know it wasn't a very good season last year, but he was out there, he was trying, he was hitting the ball. He was an instrumental part in all the wins that they did get, to then sit there, get sent down, and then sent down again.
Listen, we all knew that Anthony Ghost was a career below 250 hitter. I mean, this is a guy that's struggled.
He's batting 185 in the minors,
and he's
now.
And he's tanked in the minors, and it's something where it's obvious. He's frustrated. When you wine and dine with the big club, and you end up getting $40 a day per diem in the minors, you're not going to be happy. And then when you feel like you're being disrespected, athletes nowadays might be more prone to spout off at the mouth. But this is a situation where emotion got the best of him. By all accounts, he's a good dude, but he was very dissatisfied with his play, his role. And when your manager comes out and is chirping at you, sometimes you lose your cool and you do things you regret, but they did the right thing. For me personally, I wouldn't want him around. So if that's something you can do, demote him instead of releasing him outright. I don't know what they see in him. Once you go out and get a Cameron Maben, you basically tell the guy, and it's probably what he's been feeling, is that personally he feels dissed. And that might be leading to his overall attitude problems. And the more concerning one is Jacoby Jones. He's got upside, and he's out there not hustling in the minors. That's a bad sign because he's had that problem before. So Jacoby Jones and Anthony Ghost, their saga in the minors, peeking on, I would look into it too, because if Jacoby Jones is a guy that you think is going to be a future piece for you that's going to help out, he's not doing the right things to get up to the big club.
On the flip side, I absolutely applaud the Tigers organization for sending him down.
For sure.
Because you don't want this to fester. You don't want the other guys on the team. You got to remember, it's minor league baseball. The young guys that are supposed to be coming up, you want them to sit there and you want them to come up properly and right. You want to let them know that this type of thing is not allowed and can't happen.
Exactly.
So I applaud the Tigers organization.
Yeah, stay with us. Our last time out, we're going to come back and unfortunately got to continue to talk about 3 athletes that had horrible weeks, and probably add to the list too, because I read something from an NFL athlete that's just utterly ridiculous. Athletes with terrible weeks to finish off this podcast. Episode 153, Detroit Sports Podcast Network. I want to tell you about our newest sponsor, Team Top Cat Sales. Are you looking for team apparel for your high school, your club sports team, or corporation? Look no further than Top Cat Sales, located on the east side of Main Street in downtown Royal Oak, between 11 and 12 Mile. Through founder and former University of Michigan QB John Wangler's leadership, Top Cat Sales has developed a tradition of selling and distributing custom Adidas team apparel with the highest quality and best service. Get your organization, school, or club team all in with Adidas today by going to TopCatTeamSales.com. That's TopCatTeamSales.com. Also, follow Top Cat on Twitter at Team Top Cat. I want to tell everyone out there about DetroitSportsNation.com. They're a great website, and they've been very supportive to all the shows on the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. They host all the podcasts. They have great writers that cover all the Detroit teams, all the college teams. Check out their website and support those who support us. DetroitSportsNation.com. The collaboration has been excellent, and it's helped us to continue to grow and have great guests take phone calls. So our collaboration with the Detroit Sports Nation has really been successful, and support those who support us. DetroitSportsNation.com. All right, final segment, Doc and Jock, episode 153. Thanks again for the great support of all the podcasts on our platform. We got a crew that's just willing to do whatever it takes to broadcast. They're very passionate. They're very entertaining, and we're trying to do our best to provide great Detroit sports content in lieu of some former stations out there that used to, and they're not there anymore. So hopefully we're a great alternative on-demand Detroit sports audio that you can find anywhere podcasts are found. And if you want to look back on what we thought when Brad Ausmus was hired, we've gone back and archived our entire platform from the early episodes. So some great sports stories that you want to relive, go check out our YouTube page, Detroit Sports Podcast. You know, we definitely look into great stories in sports. Guys like Tim Duncan definitely need to be highlighted. And the reason why great athletes, guys that stay out of trouble, guys that don't do things to hurt themselves is when we looked up the list of guys that had terrible weeks, the list was damn near half a dozen long. I mean, you had a week in sports that was really interesting to look at in terms of what some of these athletes on this list who did some things that weren't great. And you go, man, you have all this money. You have all this respect from people. You're somebody that's looked at as an upstanding citizen. You're somebody that has responsibility to your team, to your community, and you're doing stuff that is just absolutely terrible. And there's some that don't even make this list that we created this week. But the week that was for John Bones Jones, Draymond Green, Lamar Odom, and Isaiah Crowell, unbelievable when you look at it. And then you got the never-ending saga of Johnny Manziel, and you look at, wow, what are these athletes that are given funds? Why do they turn this way? I mean, we just start with Bones Jones. I would be crying too if you knew that you give up potentially 8-figure payday because of drugs that you took. You can't really hone in on what you got to put in your body when you're about to make $10 million. Yeah, I'd be crying. And that's after a year suspension when you were gone in your prime, when you were looked at basically as the Muhammad Ali of UFC. This is a guy that had that potential. His only loss was for a mistake that he made in terms of throwing an elbow down at the wrong angle. This was a guy that could have made, in the next 4 years, $100 to $200 million in prize fighting, and you blow it all away with drugs. You got Draymond Green, who's trying to pretend like he's a boxer and getting out there doing his thing in his home stomping ground. Lamar Odom is just devastating what you see when the thralls of addiction get to you. And Isaiah Crowell is just plain stupid. You see that in athletes and you go, why? Why in 2016 can we make lists that are half a dozen long of athletes that are doing stupid things? Why is it happening when all you got to do with your funds is, hell, you make $5 million a year. You can't allocate $50,000 to $75,000 a year for a team of people to advise you like the stupid people alert. I would have one. I'd have a guy that just makes sure that whatever I tweet goes out there. Hey, approve this. Okay, I'm thinking about saying this. Approve this. A guy that's just going to keep your ass out of trouble. A guy, when I say, hey, I want to go out to the bar, I'm going to kick it at the Penthouse Club till 4 a.m, he goes, hey, easy. There's going to be photographer Bill there, photographer Jim there. He's going to be out there looking for you. Stay out there. We'll go here. Blah, blah, blah. We'll take care of business. Why in this day and age, when you have social media, do you even run your own account? Have somebody that's upstanding in PR. You run my account. Tweets that are from Doc are courtesy of Samantha J. Period. Why are these athletes making these key mistakes? And you got Lamar Odom, who's been given chance after chance after chance. You had your ex-wife. How crazy is that? Your millionaire ex-wife who loves you and cares about you after all the crap that you did basically saves you. You're doing your thing in a brothel. You're laid out in the most embarrassing way possible. She goes out there, she saves you. How you get on a plane drunk, how you vomit all over yourself on a flight when you know they know you're on this flight. When you're anywhere associated with the Kardashians, everybody knows everything about you because people are paying the airlines for this information. Please, here's a couple $100. When Kim Kardashian's on a flight, when Lamar Odom's on a flight, buzz my phone. Hundos are exchanging hands for that info. You lost your privacy. You could even take a sip of alcohol. Why? She's there for you. She will give you whatever you need. Houses. She's putting you back on TV. You're going to hang out with Kanye West at his fashion show. I just seen him on a recent episode of The Kardashians, kind of getting introduced to Madison Square Garden. She's putting you back in the spotlight. You have the nerve to actually drink on a plane. I cannot believe the week that was for these athletes. Unbelievable.
More importantly, why are you watching the Kardashians on the E! Network? What are you doing?
Kim Kardashian's Armenian, so she represents.
Oh, God. Honestly, anytime you find a brown-skinned person, you're like, oh, they're Arabic. Let's root for them. Come on.
Listen,
no matter what kind of trash they are.
Listen,
you're unbelievable.
Listen, I'm going to say it this way. I don't proclaim to know Kim Kardashian, but the character that they've created for the Kardashians kills an hour. It's kind of entertaining. And now they've introduced their brother back, who's like ballooned to 250 pounds, and
absolutely
he's dating the ex. He's dating the ex of his sister's boyfriend's ex. So there's too much drama, and whether it's real or not, scripted or not, it is kind of entertaining. Guilty pleasure. Ugh. My guilty pleasures are the Housewives on Bravo and the Kardashians. Those are my two.
You should take your man card right now.
Yes.
Absolutely brutal. All right, Johns Bones Jones. Let's just jump right into it. Does this surprise you in any way? Yeah. I mean, this guy, like you said, he was being built to be the face of the UFC. He sat there, got drunk, drove his Bentley into a light pole, got in trouble for DUI, sits there, pokes guys in the eye during matches, and there's a lot that comes out about that. On top of it, he's now incites a riot during the build-up for the brawl with Daniel Cormier back in UFC 178. Fast forward to UFC, 200?
The marquee event of your organization.
You sit there and you get in trouble for possible doping and taking drugs? Come on, man. What are you doing? You're an idiot. You're an absolute moron. All right? Now let's work our way down this list here, all right? Because like you said, we could have went with a bunch of guys. Could have went with a bunch. We sat there and we tried to limit it a little bit because we knew we were going to put it for our last segment, and we knew we'd be talking a long time about Tigers. You got punch-drunk freaking Draymond Green. He just got out of an NBA series where he was kicking dudes in the balls left and right. I don't care if this guy who you punched in the face was bad-mouthing you, bad-mouthing your mom.
Worse than that.
It doesn't matter.
What came out was that he slapped the guy.
Right. You didn't punch him.
What man slaps another man? I tweeted that. I'm like, really? I mean, it's for fodder. It's like for Rick James to be slapping, Charlie Murphy. What man slaps another man?
It just makes absolutely no sense. Why put yourself in that? Why put yourself in that spot?
Exactly.
Why? There was an ESPN news alert that comes out that says Draymond Green says that his legal team will be handling this. So there will be a payoff, and all this will get absolved. But still, you're showing yourself to be an idiot and a character, and not to have character, and that's an issue. And Lamar Odom, you're right. He's
probably high on everyone's Deadpool at this point.
This is what addiction does, right?
Yeah.
And when you have no control, just look at Johnny Manziel. Johnny Manziel is exactly the same. They both have absolutely zero control. You get a little bit drunk. You sit there, you go out, you act a fool. Next thing you know, you're throwing up on a plane, getting booted off the plane, and you're taking pictures at strip clubs with owners. It's a bad look. It's a very bad look. And then Isaiah Crowell comes out, and this is in the thrall of the Black Lives Matter, the Blue Lives Matter. Hey, guys, how about this?
You peek at the picture?
All lives matter. All lives matter. We should be treating each other as equals, And hey, for the longest time, back when Rodney King happened, back when Malice Green happened, I did tons of research papers for school on police brutality and what goes on. And I sat there and I would speak with police officers from the Detroit Police Force. And I would sit there and try to get a grasp on what was happening and what was going on. There is really a few bad apples that really spoil it for the bunch. And the big issue is everything now is videotaped. Everybody has a camera with them. Take a look at your phone. Your phone is a recording device. So these things were going on before. Doesn't make them right, but they were going on before. Now there's just a bigger platform for them to be shown. You've got Twitter, you've got Facebook, you've got Instagram. You've got a phone in your hand that captures video at an alarming rate and with great video quality. So everybody shows this. You know what? You're right. Black lives do matter.
Yep.
Blue lives do matter. White lives do matter. Brown lives do matter. Yellow lives matter. Red lives, green. Everybody's life matters. Your life, their life, everybody's life is important. Start treating each other like friends. Start treating each other like people. Treat them like you're your brother. I mean, shit. There's Judaism. There's Islam. There's Christianity. All these books. And believe me, I'm not big on religion at all. At all. I think most of it's a crock of shit. I'll be honest with you. I think most of it is. But here's the deal. The overriding story in all those books.
Just treat people nice.
That's it.
That's it.
There's the golden rule.
Golden rule. Simple stuff. Treat people nice, and hopefully these incidences go away and the level of violence goes down for sure. And I think that's just the biggest part, is that when you say all lives matter, it doesn't demean the Black Lives Matter movement.
No.
It just means that, hey, let's include everybody, that as a society, we'll all treat each other better with
Everybody's
respect.
life matters.
Everybody
Whether
is...
you're black, white, red, Haitian, yellow, green, freaking Jamaican, whatever you are, it doesn't matter. Your life matters. You can be Arabic. You can be whatever.
Every human being has the right to a quality life, to be treated with respect, no doubt about it. Can you believe Isaiah Crowell would actually look at that picture and actually send that out to the masses? I can't believe someone would do that, because it's so violent and graphic. And not only that, you probably are re-triggering people that have been directly affected by terrorism. And that visual... And I thought when I first read it that it was a real thing that happened, and that thank goodness what he did actually put out there on his Instagram was just a caricature, because I thought when I heard the report that he actually found some footage and reposted it. I was like, what? But when I saw it still was alarming that a professional athlete would really do that. And it goes to show you that, yes, he is deeply affected, but use your words, take some action, be part of the solution instead of part of the problem. So you look at these athletes and you know that decision-making is something that they definitely need to continue to work on, because it is easier to fall into pitfalls and make huge mistakes, and everything is elevated in this day and age. But of the list, who do you think had the worst week? Who made the dumbest mistake? Was it Bones Jones? Was it Draymond Green? Was it Lamar Odom? Was it Crowell? I mean, all of them are different and terrible in so many different ways, and you wish that we wouldn't be talking about this. You wish you were talking about people that are charitable and do things in great ways, but sometimes they get pushed to the back burner. We this makes the last segment of our podcast. Who had the worst week in your opinion?
I mean, they all had bad weeks, right?
All bad. Worst week ever.
But John's Bone Jones, with everything he had on the line, again, being pushed to be the face of an entire organization that just sold for $4 billion. They want you to basically be the torchbearer for it. They want you to carry it, and they want you to sit there and ride off into the sunset with it. And you keep screwing up. And this isn't the first time you screwed up. This isn't the second time you screwed up. This isn't the third time you screwed up. And they still want you to do it. And then you come out and you do this. It has to be John's Bone Jones.
See, I would say it's going to be Lamar Odom, because the rest of these guys, even if Bones Jones gets suspended for 2 years, he could theoretically come back and have a good 6 years of fighting left, if Dana White even considers taking him back, because it's looking like the way they smeared him at UFC 200, they didn't include him in the feature footage all that much, and they kind of made it be known how they felt about it. And by all accounts, he did ruin the card. It was a decent card. The women's fight definitely delivered, made the card a lot better than what the underfights really showed. So the women's fight really brought the card up. But yeah, John Bones Jones did a lot of damage by what he did. But I think the person that I'm most fearful for is Lamar Odom, because when you fall off the wagon, this is a guy that's not supposed to be touching any substance, because he's prone to addiction, and that he basically came back from a situation where all his organs were failing. He was in intensive care for a long time, had to relearn a lot of basic functioning. To come back and to do that kind of stuff really makes you question, his desire to live. And you got to remember too, usually when you have a substance problem, it's usually driven by severe mental health issues. And when you see all the people that have died in his life, best friend, a child, has had a lot of traumatic things going on. One that with the best quality care, if he came and sat in my office, I would say maybe not even 5 days a week of therapy might not even help him, because of the level of trauma that he has. And he's got a lot to work through. So for him to be traveling, for him to be doing anything outside of him devoting his life to therapy in the next year or two to gain insight, to hurt, to heal, and to be clean for at least minimum 3 years, he's on death watch. I would say if he makes it to 2017, I would be surprised and applaud him. I'm worried about him, because when you fall off the wagon and you have this situation with you, I don't know how much more support he's going to have. And if he's all alone, look for him to be making the news in a really, really bad way in the near future.
Look, addiction is brutal, right? My grandfather was an alcoholic, all right? Nicest guy alive. You met him. You could sit there and talk with him for hours. I loved him. I miss him dearly. He was great to sit around and just talk, because he knew so much. He was so intelligent. Addiction's a mother, right?
Tough.
He showed me that if you really want to get clean, you can get clean. You will have relapses. They do happen. But you get right back up and you keep fighting. You keep the good fight going. So if Lamar Odom really wants to be helped, he can seek help. He can get treatment. He has money. He can do it. You know, if anything, he's got one of the Kardashian sisters who can sit there and carry him along and help him out. You know, so if he really wants to get clean, he can get clean. The rest of these guys, you got to clean up your life.
Yep.
I mean,
make
you guys
better choices.
Yeah, you're idiots. What are you doing?
Make better choices. That's all we can say. Make choices that will lead to good outcomes. That'll be the theme for the week, no doubt about it. We'll continue to make good choices. Keep on with this podcast network. Thank you for your support. Going on 153 episodes strong. Read online that the webcast on WXYZ is returning in August. Looking forward to the changes that Justin's making. I read that he's definitely going to include Adam, no doubt about it. Trying to finagle you to get on television. We're working on it. We're working on making news so that he asks us instead of us asking all the time. But I like that too. It makes it very fun to create your own opportunities. I think it's actually more fun to kick the door down than to be asked, in my opinion. But it'd be nice to be asked a little bit more too.
All in due time, bro.
For the Jock, Adam Strozinski, I am the Doc, John Macaroon, episode 153. In the books, let's go play some Pokemon.
Go Tigers.
Sorry, Detroit. Didn't quite work out.
And all I can say is Detroit Sports Podcast scores.
I have voices in my head. They counsel me. They understand. They talk to me. They talk to me. They tell me things that I will do. They show me things I'll do.